Hello, everybody. Welcome to another NPCs Weekly News Roundup. It is May 7th, 2022. Tonight, we will be talking about Embracer Group picking up a whole bunch of studios from Square-Enix West and what that means for Square-Enix going forward. We'll also be talking about Xbox Cloud Gaming Stream Stick could be on its way very soon. And, of course, we'll also be talking about the mention from Reggie Fils-Aimé in his recent memoir talking about how Nintendo of America was forced to launch the Game Boy Micro. That and more, of course, here on the NPCs Weekly News Roundup. We're going to roll our intro and get things started. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another NPCs Weekly News Roundup for the week of November 20th, 2020. It is Friday. It is, where's my date? It's September 18th, 2020 here to our first story, and this is actually breaking news for all of us right now here, too. Figured this is kind of a big one to cover, of course, with who it is. Joined via Discord by Kyle because we're in the midst of a pandemic still, and, of course, everything is all kinds of crazy. So this thing is a chonker. I mean...
yeah, it's a beast.
It's huge. Doing that we had the Resident Evil stuff, that they were successful with Castlevania. Welcome to another NPC's Weekly News Roundup. And it's the news time. I am joined, of course, by Kyle via Discord. Kyle, hello.
What's up?
Man. And there we are. We are live. We are up. We are running. It is time, everyone, again, for the Weekly News Roundup here with your favorite people, the NPCs. Of course, I am Travis. Kyle is over that way. Kyle, what's up, man?
What's up?
Well, apparently a lot, especially, it's very interesting. It's going to be our second story here in the list. It probably should have been the first, but that's okay. But the second story here in our list is actually an ongoing problem that's still happening right now. So I'm going to actually jump us ahead to that story first here instead. We'll come back to the Embracer Group one. Xbox outages are keeping players from playing games and streaming content. So this is something that I had actually shared with you yesterday. This is still an ongoing issue with Xbox right now. It looks like it's been intermittent since the original issue first occurred yesterday. So yesterday, of course, being Friday. And apparently this kicked off again at 2 p.m. our time, local time for us, today. That this happened all over again. And the thing they're putting out there, their tweet from this afternoon says, we're aware that some users are unable to purchase and launch games or start cloud gaming sessions. Our teams are investigating. Please keep an eye here and on our status page for updates. So on the status page for Xbox right now, let's see how things are looking. It's interesting. Yeah, they've still got limited status on store and subscriptions, cloud gaming and remote play, and then even just games and gaming in general.
I actually checked this just before dinner, and I wasn't able to start anything. I was trying to start Trek to Yomi first.
Wow. Okay.
I even started a game that I own, and it kicked off into the main boot screen, and then gave me a weird message about my offline settings and stuff.
Very interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was seeing that, like yesterday we launched, I think we played a little bit of Halo Infinite yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so when we played Halo Infinite yesterday, we didn't have any of the issues with actually getting in and playing anything. So whatever they did must have been some type of Band-Aid, because this isn't just Xbox specific. It's across all the stuff. It's Xbox on Windows. It's Xbox One,
Right.
Xbox Series S and X. It's the cloud streaming. It's Game Pass stuff. Basically, their core systems have just been suffering since yesterday. I mean, out of all of it, though, Kyle, what do you think about that for these a multi-day intermittent outage with the fundamentals of what Xbox is?
I mean, that's pretty scary. Going back, what was it? Over 10 years ago now, when weird stuff started to happen with PlayStation Network, and all of a sudden they went down for, what was it, a month or so? Well, it wasn't a month. It was a few weeks, but
they were down for an extended period of time.
Yeah, but they even gave away games and then tried to hide the fact that, players' accounts were hacked. So I hope nothing like that's going on Xbox's side. And if there is, they'd be very forthcoming about, users needing to change their password and whatnot.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything like that. I haven't seen anything come up like password resets or anything of the note, like emails that would be concerning enough to have to jump into action. as it stands right now, it just looks like something core service wise is just not working properly. And I mean, I'm not aware of any big updates that have come out for like the Xbox platform itself in the last week or so. Are you?
Yeah, I'm not aware of anything either. It's almost like someone was walking through one of the server rooms in one of their buildings and kicked something and unplugged it and didn't know when, or where it happened.
Someone tripped over something is what happened. It was just a
Yeah.
power cable that was spread across the data center floor and just oops. Or it was what was it?
Oops.
Johnny from Airplane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, this is an ongoing outage, of course. Polygon here is reporting saying that you're still able to play some games offline if you actually have them on your console, as long as that Xbox is your home console. And some people are even saying, and this even includes Xbox support, that sometimes rebooting your console might help. So there's something stuck potentially in the underlying code of the Xbox, some sort of underlying function, driver, process, whatever, that is holding this up. So a reboot is a very interesting thing to go and say, hey, go and do, but maybe that reboot is clearing up or releasing whatever the problem thing is.
Mm.
It's just funny. Just turn it off and on again. That's all. So, yeah, at least as it
Common
stands.
IT fix.
Yeah, no kidding. As of right now, I know the issue yesterday was affecting Xbox on Windows, but it looks like so far these status updates are showing there are no issues on the PC side right now. It is specifically consoles, cloud gaming, backward compatibility. They even have Xbox 360 listed on here too. So I guess you got
See,
that.
I don't know, because like I said, when I tried earlier this evening before I had dinner, it was wigging out pretty weird on me, saying that I had to change my offline settings and that, or I had to go online, and I was clearly online, so pretty weird.
Oh yeah, you're telling me. So that is kind of funny
So,
though that ends up being the
yeah.
case. Um, but I mean, at least it's limited right now compared to what it was yesterday when they were suffering hard with whatever it is.
Hmm.
But what's even more interesting about this, than we can carry on to the rest of the news we have, is that it's also affecting streaming services too. So if you use your Xbox for Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, any sort of content like that, it won't work. You won't be able to bring up any of those applications to use. So it's not just
Right.
limited to games, but it's if your console's your all-in-one system to enjoy content on both gaming and just regular media, you're kind of in a weird spot right now. So I guess just kick over to your phone and do something on there. But anyway, in the meantime, of course, we've got more stuff to talk about outside of X. Actually, I take that back. There's a lot of Xbox news on our list tonight. But let's talk about the big thing from this week is Embracer Group buying Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, and a whole bunch of IPs, including Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Thief, Legacy of Kain, and a bunch of back catalog games from Square-Enix, their Western or Western division, for $300 million. Holy crap.
Yeah. I mean, not the biggest deal that we've seen go down, obviously, but to hear
Oh yeah, it's not.
some of those titles uttered again,
Mm-hmm.
like Legacy of Kain or Deus Ex, um Thief, I was kind of burned on the last title, but if they could return to form from the first two games, um yeah, I would play another Thief game. Um but Embracer's also one of those companies that kind of pushes developers to uh, do basically reskins of games.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
I don't know.
I think we're more of just the where more of the craziness is actually at with Embracer Group is how many things they've absorbed in the last couple
No
years.
kidding.
I
They're
mean,
like one of the largest.
it's yeah. I think they actually I think they actually tower over like Tencent, for example.
Yeah.
Like I wonder if there's actually a listing of the
Well, and
um,
keep in mind, Tencent, a lot of the
positions
companies
here.
that they have or that they own, they only own a portion of,
Uh huh.
whereas Embracer is purchasing outright developers.
Yeah, like they've got like I mean they've got Gearbox, they've got
Right.
Saber Interactive here, they've got THQ Nordic,
Deep
um,
Silver.
Deep Silver being oh my gosh yeah. Um, let's see what else here is actually sticking out that just looks right. Uh,
Yeah, I was trying to find an up-to-date picture the other day that
they
kind of had like a diagram of everything that they actually own under their umbrella, and it's hard to find an actual up-to-date picture that with all the companies listed, or without just finding a Word document basically typed up
oh yeah
that's a list, because it keeps growing so fast.
it does. I mean at least according to Wikipedia here right now they own Coffee Stain Holding also, which their subgroup Coffee Stain Studios are the ones who made Goat Simulator and Satisfactory. Ghost Ship Games
Hmm.
is another sub one there who made Deep Rock Galactic. We've got Deca Games in here as well. Trying to actually see if I can find a list of some of their stuff. One of the interesting ones I see is they actually own Dark Horse Comics too. That's an
Wow.
interesting one I didn't actually expect, but um, no, Deep Silver being one of them is really just
Maybe I'm more
interesting too.
of an Embracer fanboy than I am a Devolver fanboy. Holy cow.
Well, okay, it's more well,
They're just like absorbing all these franchises that I totally
well,
love, you know.
that's why it's like no, I wouldn't say you're a fanboy of them because these studios have existed for years
Right.
and years, well before Embracer Group ever came around and started acquiring all the different studios.
Mhm.
So you're a fanboy of the sub studios, not of Embracer Group, because Embracer just keeps buying up everybody. We don't really know what their true
Right.
end. Oh shit! There goes my phone. What their end game is actually going to be. So that
Well, and I
don't know.
like I said, I hope when, they make mention of games like Deus Ex, Thief, Legacy of Kain, it's not just that they're buying a license to sit on it,
Hmm.
that maybe we could even see, a remastered version, even if it had, like I said, same controls, even if they're the same crappy controls as they were before, just reskinned with better graphics and more modernized shaders and whatnot.
Hmm.
Give us
Maybe.
some RTX, you
Well,
know?
I mean, there's the other part here too. Like, I mean, they only just picked them up, but Crystal Dynamics did say they are making the next Tomb Raider game using Unreal 5, and they only announced that a month ago too.
Right.
So you've got to really put it out there that you are going to see stuff like that with the advancements in technology too, without having to say develop a whole new engine to be able to support RTX. Unreal Engine 5 already supports that. So
Right.
just by moving
And
over
and
into it,
I
you might get that.
had heard there was information that an insider uh from Embracer Group had stated that a major reason for the deal was because of the Marvel franchise that they had. They were able to continue on with potentially another Avengers game, potentially another Guardians game.
Yeah, because Guardians was like wildly successful in the
Right.
sense that it was
But it was viewed as unsuccessful by Square Enix as
yeah.
far as sales go, because it didn't necessarily sell as well in their Eastern audience.
Well, here's what I find funny. And this is the most hilarious thing ever because I didn't have the story in the list tonight at all. But
Hmm.
I thought this was a funny part though here is that in a press release, this is an article from Video Games Chronicle talking about it. In a press release, Square Enix said the deal enables the launch of new businesses by moving forward with investments in fields including, and I have to just roll my eyes at this anyway because I usually do, including blockchain, AI, and the cloud. So Square Enix is putting more emphasis on NFT stuff. And one of the articles that was also out there today that I happened to see on Video Games Chronicle, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, the NFT market has really like not necessarily like crashed or bottomed out or anything, but it's
Hmm.
like it does not have the same engagement that it did, you know, like just several months ago. And it's like, here, Square Enix is going to take $300 million to invest in something that we're really seeing has just been a fad. It's sure, invest in blockchain, AI, the cloud, invest in NFTs if you want, but holy cow! I mean, if that's what you're seeing in the rest of the market, and you just decide to go ahead and sign on and sell this stuff, okay, maybe instead you change your focus and hold on to that $300 million until, I don't know, something else changes. But that's Square Enix; they can do what they want.
Right. And see, I had heard um also on another news outlet that on there was a transcription of one of Jeff Grubb's podcasts that in an interview with another gentleman that he had said that basically cutting out their Western franchises was a way to tailor the company to for a possible purchase by Sony.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So
Well, I mean,
there is that as well, because there
right.
was rumor of a major Sony purchase that we still haven't heard wind of yet. I mean, Sony's made some pretty big purchases,
Oh
but
yeah.
nothing that's like blown our minds as of yet.
No, there's the acquisition deal with Bungie that was announced after the Activision
I
Blizzard
mean,
Microsoft
that's
announcement.
pretty
But
big, but in the scope of things, what all does Bungie really have to offer anymore since they got rid of the Halo franchise?
oh no, 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 I agree with you. I agree with you. I think the only one though
Yeah,
that's really been in the rumor mill about a potential acquisition by Sony has been From Software. And
right.
if they can do it, hey, cool, that would definitely be kind of an interesting hit. But a lot of
But
those games and a lot of that relationship goes back console
isn't it
generations.
ironic that that's also another Eastern studio? That's Square Enix is wanting to tailor themselves back down to be pretty much Eastern studio. They want their um the
I guess that's
games that they
true.
produce for their Eastern audiences
Hmm.
primarily your JRPGs, so
Oh
on and
yeah,
so forth.
those two. Yeah, and because we've even seen the way that um, Sony, where PlayStation consoles have always, come out on top, at least in the
Mhm.
battle between Microsoft and Sony when it comes to console sales, is that the PlayStation has come out on top all the time. But it's even been seen though that that Sony and their ambitions for first party titles has really pushed a lot of things off to the wayside. So you don't see a
Mhm.
lot of this active third party or second party development that would actively help them. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's why there's a lot of that because Square Enix really was. I know they released stuff on Nintendo, but they got a lot more people involved, especially when it came to their Final Fantasy releases on PlayStation.
Mhm.
So by going back to their roots, at least by focusing on their East offices where they're headquartered at, it
Right.
might be one of those things to help kind of revitalize that first party or even third party Japanese market.
See, and I think that's what their general idea is. But I also think it's ironic on the other side of the coin that Sony seems to be tailoring themselves to be more expansive to the Western audience. So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, because not everything that releases in the United States makes its way over to Japan and vice versa.
Right.
So there are a lot of games that people do look out for that like here in the states especially that come out in Japan, especially like you said JRPGs, your standard RPGs. There are even some goofy wacky games too, especially with a lot of rhythm games in Japan that you can't get
Hmm.
here too that
Oh
people
yeah.
love. So
No kidding.
that could be another thing though that might potentially put more of a divide in there, especially as a lot of consoles are still region locked and won't allow you to play games from outside where you actually purchase the console at. So
Right.
that puts you in a very interesting situation. And whether or not that's what Square Enix plans on doing outside of their announcement of the blockchain, the AI, and whatever else they're going to be doing, especially if it involves NFT stuff, it's really kind of uncertain, at least in our eyes right now, about what they could potentially be focusing on next. Who knows what they're going to
Right.
evolve into, though? But I'm not really sure what to take away from all of it, other than I'm just rolling my eyes at stupid NFT stuff again. I swear, I'm so tired of
No
it.
kidding.
I'm so tired of it. Anyway, so as we move on from NFT stuff, of course, dealing with at least what Square-Enix is doing post Embracer Group stuff, we're going to move on. You're talking about this. Xbox Cloud Streaming Stick apparently is on its way. So we talked about this actually in a news roundup back in, I think, October or November, because it was something that Xbox CEO Phil Spencer, or Xbox president, I can't remember exactly what title they gave him, but Phil Spencer had talked about the potential of some type
Overlord
of
of Xbox
Overlord.
gaming.
Overlord of Xbox, Phil Spencer. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so Phil Spencer was in an interview and had talked about a Xbox streaming stick, or at least had alluded to something like that. You know, like maybe that's something they could do. Well, according to Jeff Grubb over at VentureBeat, it looks like that could very well be making its way to us here soon. According to him, in the next 12 months, Microsoft plans to release an Xbox cloud gaming streaming device. This will likely look like an Amazon Fire Stick or perhaps a small Roku-like puck. And like a Roku, the Xbox streaming device will enable you to access movie and TV services in addition to a library of games through Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. That actually is, because I think we talked about at that point in time too, is that it's a very unique way to be able to get out to your market, or at least get your service out there to market if people don't have a PC that they can play some of these games on, or maybe they are, they don't like doing the cloud streaming gaming on their phone. They want to be able to have more of that core console-like experience by having it plugged into their TV. They're sitting in front of it and using a controller, a la Stadia and Luna and such, but with a already existing and well-known platform. So,
Right.
are you going to get one if it comes out, Kyle?
Maybe. I mean, why not? To be honest, it's a good thing that both Roku and Google have built-in TV stuff already, because as stick services, they may not continue to exist after this.
That's very
This could
possible.
almost make a Roku stick completely obsolete.
It could. It's one of those other things too, on like what else is supported, and of course it comes down to preference as well. I mean, you are right, we probably could see a lot of that divesting of, depending on, it's always subjective. It's depending on the success of what this streaming stick could look like and its capabilities are going to be, because it could potentially push Roku's dedicated hardware off to the side, and Roku becomes more of the software-based part of it. Like, you can go to Walmart and buy a TCL TV or a Hisense TV that is running Roku software to run all the different facets of what's on your TV, whether it's your physical inputs or any of the streaming services that you can download through Roku's channel application.
Right.
So maybe that's what they could potentially change over to, but it's going to be one of those wait and see approaches, because it's going to
but on the other
be.
side too, a lot of the smart TVs that have that technology, they really aren't all that smart, because having to put that extra processor, they need to squeeze money out of extra bits and pieces to get cheap processors. So that's why those TVs actually run slower than a lot of like your streaming sticks do.
Oh no, trust me, I have unfortunately a couple of them, so I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I have the same issues. So
Yeah, and it is exactly that, is because it's one of those ways to just offer a service, cheaply. Partner up with one of
Right.
these already established groups, whether it is Roku or, of course, Google with the Android TV software, which is baked into some TCL TVs as well,
Right.
and Vizio and where have you. But the dedicated streaming stick, though, would you actually, I mean, like, there's the example here that it could be like an Amazon Fire Stick or like a Roku puck. Because we would see it have to be only 1080p 60 FPS that you get out of it, because it's going to be just cloud gaming. It's not going to be something that you can plug a disc into, you know. But uh, with that, do you think that we could see them potentially make it like the Xbox One S of like in regards to the technology level for like for their streaming service, where it's like you have 1080p 60 FPS gaming on the games that you can play because of cloud streaming, but you can do your video services, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, what have you, in 4K if they offer it.
Yeah, I see that as totally possible.
Yeah.
I think that's realistically what they would probably be aiming for.
Yeah, and I think I trailed off a little bit there on it, mostly on like the physical hardware part. But would you prefer a stick or would you prefer the actual puck?
Probably a puck, honestly. Um, I guess it also depends on how it hangs. Some of the pucks, they don't really, I don't know, hang all that well off the TV. They don't give you a lot of like extra distance. So I worry about, putting it too close to a wall or anything and damaging the HDMI port that it's actually plugged into.
Yeah.
Streaming sticks, at least you could, if nothing else, you can buy an adapter to, angle them down.
Oh no, that's very true because those streaming sticks are just as big as like the first USB flash drives we were seeing as kids.
Right.
I would personally
So
go.
I don't know, almost probably a stick. I think.
I'm torn between. I think I would actually probably go with the puck, and the only reason
Yeah.
for that is because it's additional cooling. It means that the processor that they use inside of it, the SoC that they use, could potentially be a little bit beefier. So that way, your ability to load things up and get moving through things might be at least faster. Because my sister-in-law has a Fire Stick, and it
Mhm.
was slow to use. It was sluggish. It was janky. It just felt like it was a half finished product, even with everything else Amazon has already created. So I would be more definitely for the puck style of like what a Roku is or like an Apple TV or something, because what I would do with it is make sure that I have a good HDMI port that it can get to, and then just double side tape and just stick it to the back of the TV.
That's fair.
Yeah. So yeah, and Serpent Knight here says sounds kind of like the SD card versus memory stick thing. Well, I mean, sure, maybe it's more of just
In a
the
way, I
actual
guess.
format of how we're actually going to be able to see something like this. But I like the idea of this because this is something we had talked about previously,
Mhm.
where like if a business trip or something comes up, or like say we travel across the country for a vacation. I could take the controllers with me. I could take this streaming stick with me without having to worry about bringing a laptop or the gaming PC or even the Xbox Series X with me. I could take that with, and if the kids are done being outside, wherever we're at, or maybe we can't go out and do anything, now there's this other option for them to be able to sit back and play games.
Right.
That's where I see it as kind of the bigger selling point for me, is to be able to take the Xbox with me without having to rely on, say, a phone or another device like that. In the meantime, though, of course, it just says within the next 12 months is when this is going to drop. So whether it's maybe a holiday release, potentially, maybe we see something like, here for Christmas, go buy your family a $50 Xbox stick, the X stick, the let's see. No, I was about to call it the X Play, but I don't think that would be allowed. Let's see, what else is there? I don't know. Help me out with some names here for what it could be. The Surface Xbox.
The
The Zune box. No.
the XTV.
XT. God, that sounds like something out of the. That sounds like one of those
It's
TVs
as bad as
that
the first one.
the XTV sounds like one of those TVs that you would have bought like when you were a kid in the late 90s, early 2000s, that was translucent, plastic around the outside of it that you could see in, but it was like a bright neon color or something.
Right.
And it ended up being like the junkiest TV, but you could buy it for like $50 to $70, but every
Right.
kid had to have it. The XTV, it's God. Who knows? Maybe they'll just go like everybody else with like, their streaming service. They'll just call it the X Plus, the Xbox Plus or something, I mean, at least it rolls off the tongue. But God, so many pluses on everything
Yeah.
nowadays. So anyway, that's oh my God, that's enough on that one at least there. But here is the last bit of at least our Xbox news for right now, and I think I think the headline I wrote here on the bottom of the screen is by far the best headline ever. It says Epic says "F you" to Apple and Google with Fortnite on Xbox Cloud streaming. I mean, that's pretty right. That's pretty much right,
Yeah,
isn't it?
no, that's pretty dead on.
Yeah. So on the 5th, which let's see, today is what, the 7th now? So Thursday,
Yeah.
Fortnite partnered up, of course, with Xbox and added, or Epic's, excuse me, Epic partnered up with Xbox to put Fortnite into the cloud gaming library, meaning that if you are someone who has been missing playing Fortnite on your mobile device, on your Google device, or your Android device, excuse me, your iOS device, now there's a way for you to do it. And it's a nice big old FU from Epic Games saying, guess what, Apple? Guess what, Google? We're back. And there's nothing you can do about this. So it's been added. It's there. It's something you can get in and play. It's basically Fortnite just as you knew it. But of course, it's through the Xbox Cloud Gaming app. However, you don't have to be subscribed. This is the kicker right here, Kyle. That you don't have to be subscribed to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate to play Fortnite through the cloud gaming. All you need is a Microsoft account. And then you can play Fortnite with the touch controls if you're playing it on your iOS or Android device, or pair up a Bluetooth controller like an Xbox Series controller. So you don't even need to have Game Pass Ultimate to play Fortnite through their through their platform like that. And that, of course, information comes from Windows Central with the announcement about this. But what do you think of that? I mean, Microsoft only...
I think that's hilarious.
Like, Microsoft only just did away with... only just did away with requiring Xbox Live to play these free-to-play online games. So that, being one thing, allowing a game to actually be accessible without having to pay for Game Pass Ultimate, that's a big step forward. But at the same time, really sticking it to Google and to Apple, saying, here you go, we're going to let these people play it through our platform. And Epic's like, haha, nothing you can do about it. Take that, Apple. Take that, Google.
Well, and it kind of makes me wonder, doesn't Epic have this like massive partnership with Sony still?
That's actually an interesting thing. I hadn't thought about
So
that.
I don't
know if
know.
they still really do, but I mean, if they do,
Kind of makes me wonder though, is even if they do, maybe it's, Xbox trying to extend it at olive branch and say, it wasn't right, so we're gonna help them out regardless. Who knows?
I don't know. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. I think this was definitely just more general business. But what I'm more curious about, especially, is like you were saying there, is about the Sony stuff too, because maybe the problem is that Epic really wanted to get Fortnite out there again, and they looked at their partnership with Sony, and of course we know we've got the new PS Plus Premium changes coming out here soon, but there isn't really the best option to do streaming like content through, or at least game streaming through PlayStation right now, because PlayStation Now seems to be games that are made just for PlayStation, not necessarily games that are multi-platform or cross-platform.
Well, and another thing, I guess it could have just been a thing that they looked at it and said, this doesn't affect our contract with Sony whatsoever, so let's go ahead and, put Fortnite on Game Pass so we can have it on mobile devices again.
Yeah, and it is specifically, as far as I see here, dedicated just to cloud gaming right now. It's not available as a regular thing for downloading via Game Pass, because it's already out there as a free-to-play game on the games, on the Xbox Games Store. You can download it there. We can go on to the Epic Games Launcher here on our computers and download it too. It's not like it's hard to get to. It's just that mobile aspect of it. So maybe that's where they found the delineation, was that it's like, okay, we don't really need to put it anywhere else, but we're going to at least roll it into this to round out our platform's offerings.
Right.
So that's just that's just interesting for them to do, but it's just the funniest fu out there that they could ever do. I mean, it's just great. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I love it. I love it.
stick it to the man. And of course, as they stick it to the
Stick it to
man,
Apple.
yes, they stick it to Apple and stick it to Google. Unfortunately, I find this next story here very interesting, and I'm actually tempted to go pick up the book to read a lot of this. Though, is that Reggie Fils-Aimé says that Nintendo of America was forced to launch the Game Boy Micro. So Reggie Fils-Aimé just published his new book. It's basically his memoirs of sorts, but it's called "Disrupting the Game from the Bronx to the Top of Nintendo." Um, he goes on to say that they were forced to launch here in America the Game Boy Micro in 2005 due to a lack of alignment between the different parts of the business. So goes on here. This article from Video Games Chronicle summarizes it pretty well. He says the firm's U.S. arm was planning on closing out the Game Boy Advance line that year with a Black Friday promotion that would clear its remaining inventory, as GBA was in a state of decline and Nintendo of America had switched its attention to making the recently launched Nintendo DS a success. But in early 2005, shortly after Nintendo of America had made its plans for the big GBA sale, he became aware of Nintendo Japan's plans to launch Game Boy Micro. So it's very interesting because at that point in time where Reggie Fils-Aimé was at, he was the executive vice president of sales and marketing. This was before he became the president of Nintendo of America. I believe that was around the time of the Wii launching. But even so, like, what do you think about that, Kyle? I mean, I remember seeing the Game Boy Micro. I think the Game Boy Micro is kind of an interesting concept that is even smaller and still lets you play those Game Boy games, even though the DS supported Game Boy Advance games right out the bat. You know, it had the slot there at the bottom. So,
Right.
like, did you happen to own one? Did you happen to play with one or anything?
I wanted one really bad. I never owned one. When I had my time at GameStop, there was one other employee that he wore one around on his lanyard because he actually had one that he played frequently on his lunch breaks and stuff. And it was the one on his lanyard. And I don't know. I thought they were a really cool system. The problem I think, or at least one of the problems I think they suffered, was the lack of advertising for the actual console,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that it didn't have as low of a price point as I thought it could have.
How much was it actually going for when it launched? I mean, I'm looking it up
I
now, but
think
I'm
when
just
it
trying to see if I
launched, it was
remember.
like $120 or something like that.
$100. So you're
It was
pretty
$100
close to that.
bucks.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
Seems like it was like 120, but yeah, that's probably it has to be right. So
mm-hmm. But
yeah,
like I'm looking at this thing and this really like I liked the idea of the Game Boy Micro, like you just said, and like I've said too, is that it is something that we wanted to get. But for someone who has like hands as big as ours anyway, this
Mhm.
really is something that may not just have worked out for us because of the size. I mean, like I'm looking at where my
Right.
hands would wrap around. There's volume buttons that I'd be hitting right off the back of this. Like here, let me go ahead and flip over to this really quick. Oh, I got to change that around here. Where is it? Let's see. There, and there. So if I bring up the picture here of this from the Wikipedia article behind, um, the size of it, yeah, my hands would be running into the volume button all the time. Um, if I was using the headphone jack for some reason, you know, my hand would be covering that up. That wouldn't be easy to have headphones coming off of. It's just tiny. It's small and
It is small.
but it is a unique thing though. Like you said, you know, put it on your lanyard. You got a Game Boy going with you. Um,
Well, and
sorry.
even for as small as the screen is,
Mm-hmm.
because of the fact that it's so small, the picture is so sharp on that thing. Like the text is it's legible. It's really sharp. It's very crystal clear, and you have to have pretty decent vision, or your glasses have to be the right prescription. But the as far as like characters and stuff, it's sharp. It looks really nice.
Yeah, and I really remember that being the case, especially because I had a hard time just as a kid wearing my glasses and everything too. So I bet
Hmm.
you that I understand that. What I was reading here, though, as you were talking as well, is it was talking about kind of the functionality of it. And this is the thing I didn't remember, but now as I'm reading through it, I'm like, oh, God, I think this is maybe another reason why I avoided it is that what the Wikipedia article here says about it is that although it still had the required LR35902 processor and graphics hardware necessary to run games from older Game Boy systems, it lacks other internal hardware necessary for backwards compatibility. So
Right.
it couldn't play Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. It wouldn't work with the Nintendo e-reader, which we knew that was a big and interesting thing that they developed back around that time with the original Game Boy Advance. So there's a lot of it that just worked but didn't work. It was definitely focused on that just individual um, line of systems itself, being the Game Boy Advance. So it's interesting to think that it was something when it came out here in the States that it was forced on Nintendo of America to proceed with.
Well, and in the article it does say that Reggie thought it was a non-starter. But I think maybe it launched a little late in its time, and that's why I think that it was a little high for its price point. Maybe they could have launched it much later, years down the line after Game Boy Advance was kind of off the wayside and DS had already taken out the Game Boy Advance cartridge slot. Um, and it would have been more successful then. It's hard to say, but as for a non-starter, I think for such a cool piece of tech that even today they go for upwards of 120 to 150 sometimes is when I see them on eBay, and maybe I'm just seeing them on the high side, but
Oh, now I want to look.
I don't know. I think they're a really cool device, and it definitely wasn't a non-starter. It was something that should have lasted a little longer.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think part of it though is that it ran counter to like what Reggie was saying from his book is that it ran counter because they were so focused on the DS, the Nintendo DS launch, and they were
Right.
so focused on the retiring of the Game Boy Advance line with the Game Boy Advance SP that they didn't see like why this thing was coming out, like what was this going to fulfill. Um,
Right.
so I don't know. But yeah, you are right though on the price. There are some here as low as maybe like $140 all the way up to like a special edition Game Boy Micro that came out for Mario's 20th anniversary. That looks like the old Game & Watch color scheme. But yeah, it's wow. Yeah, and that goes for $300 though. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, it looks pretty cool that way. But yeah, I don't know. It's a niche thing. It's a very interesting thing. I hate to say it, I still do kind of want to pick one up and just have it, just to have.
No, don't get me wrong. If whenever showed up in my shop, I would be oogling it pretty hardcore.
You're just over there every day, just staring in the glass case, just looking down, just like you're gonna be mine. Like
Like,
you're gonna be like you're gonna be like Wayne
couple
in
more
Wayne's.
days.
Yeah, you'd be like Wayne in Wayne's World every time he goes in and looks at the same guitar, and then finally has the money to buy
Right.
it. Oh God,
Today's the day.
today's the day. Yeah. Do you take cash? Cha-ching. Yeah. So
Right.
anyway, so there's that about the Game Boy Micro. So if you have one and you like playing around with it, let us know what you actually think of it though in the comments, of course, you're on the video or out on social media. Say, hey, yeah, I think I have mine. I still mess around with it from time to time. Or no, I wish I had one or anything like that. Let us know your thoughts on it though too. But we move on here though to probably out of everything that happened this week, out of everything that happened that was big, everything that happened that was unique, um, and everything that's still going on right now with like the Xbox outage, um, this is just hilarious. A modder happened to take a Fisher Price video game controller toy and mod it to actually become a working controller while still maintaining the internal sounds for like you'd find it on the shelf. And so for people who don't know exactly what I'm talking about here, let me go ahead and switch over to the web page here, or to Chrome here, and bring this up.
Fisher Price Xbox.
But yeah, he actually took the Fisher Price controller and modded it so that way, yes, it does work. And I don't know, Kyle. Like it's I saw it and I'm like, I wonder if you could use that as a controller. And here we are. The guy figured out how to do it.
Well, yes, and they from what I understand, it does lose some functionality, and you do have to use the switch that's on there for something. But I guess technically that it works. By all means, it does actually work.
Well,
and
yeah.
kudos for the engineering on that one.
I think what's funny though is that we've seen all the videos of people like on Twitch where they are playing they're playing games using like bananas or like their own body like wired in, and it's like they'd like you hit this banana and this one's bound to like the A button. You go over here, this one's bound to moving around. They
Right.
do all those interesting things, and it's like, what the heck? Why, it's like, why are you doing it like this other than just showing that it can be done? Is that it's just really it, just the engineering feat for it. This, on the other hand, took a kid's toy that looks and somewhat like a regular video game controller minus one analog stick, but he was able
Well,
to.
and the face buttons, which actually, like I said, he did show off it towards the end of the video. So
Oh yeah, and it's hilarious to actually see that he was able to play some of these games. Like I think I saw on the list that he's played Elden Ring with it, which was there in the background. He played Rocket League with it. What was one of the other games here? Actually, it looks like those were the only couple. So, as a parent, who kind of wishes that this toy was out at that time when the kids were, babies or even toddlers and that. Oh man, now I just wish I wish they had one of those when they were out. And then it's like I could just maybe do the same mod, because that's just funny. It's hilarious in that aspect. Is all that that it's been modified to actually act like a real controller. But
right.
I don't know. It's just it's one of those unique things that we just don't really see much of anyway. So, with that, of course, though, that was a funny one anyway, at least, or an interesting one to end the main content on. But of course, we've got our last little bit here before we close out tonight, our news roundup quest markers here. So, Kyle, we've got at least 4 there on the list to round up with, or wrap up with. So, what do we got?
So, Battlefield 2042 could be making its way to Game Pass per XGP. That's one I actually hadn't heard anything on, so you might have to enlighten me a little on that one.
Yeah, so XGP actually discovered that FIFA 22 had shown up as something being available in Game Pass, or at least had something to do with Game Pass. And they went back and looked through again and found Battlefield 2042 actually showed up in the Microsoft Store on the Xbox with a Game Pass tag on it. And whether or not that was in error is beyond anybody. But yeah, it looks like maybe it was tagged improperly, so maybe it was just a little bit of a gaffe, or maybe it was tagged too soon.
So, and that kind of makes me also wonder if, potentially maybe too soon, or maybe it was during an update, because of the fact that you can play it with that 10-hour demo, I believe, is still actually available to anyone that hasn't actually done the demo through EA Play. So
yeah, as far as I can see, it still is.
Yeah, so and anyone that has Xbox Game Pass does have the ability to get on EA Play. So if you haven't checked it out and want to see a broken shooter that's slowly being, I think, fixed, check it out.
They only just added VoIP, so yes, it's getting there.
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah. What else we got?
Continuing on, though, Activision says Vanguard underperformed quote, due to World War II setting, uh, end quote, in an annual report, while Call of Duty remains one of the most successful entertainment franchises of all time, our 2021 premiere release didn't meet our expectations. We believe primarily due to our own execution, the game's World War II settings didn't resonate with some of our community, and we didn't deliver as much innovation in the premiere or premium game as we would have liked.
Well,
That could be it, or maybe it's the fact that you're stretching all your employees to work on Warzone instead and making unrealistic guns in a World War II shooter.
or maybe that half of Activision's devs are currently working right now on Call of Duty in general, and that Vanguard
Right.
was being made during the pandemic. So maybe there's a lot else there to explain, like a lot of other things out there that could explain what happened with it instead of you know it being World War
Yeah.
II setting. Because if that was the problem, then Battlefield 5 shouldn't have done as well as it did. I know Battlefield 1 was World War
Right.
1, but it's going back in time anyway to that stuff instead of being the regular modern combat or thinking like, way forward in the future onto what it could look like. So I would say this is probably and the other thing to mention
Military
is
shooter fans always chomp at the bit for any sort of shooter. I mean, regardless if
true.
it's, modern day or historical. So I think
Yeah.
the faux pas is really on them. It's not on the game type or whatever time era they arrived on for that game. So maybe they should look internally a little bit next time.
Maybe they should stop making a game every year.
Right?
Maybe they should stop making a game every year and go back to the way that it was split up previously. Or no, you know what? No, forget it. Stop releasing every year. Do every other year.
Yeah.
And just keep working the content side of it. And you'll be fine. I know we've got Modern
Give
Warfare
each of the
2.
games a 2-year cycle,
Yeah,
so
and we've got
you have the devs working and not under
Mhm.
crunch and not having to stumble to try and complete a game while working to get it to work cohesively with an online shooter that is free to play for that
No, Kyle,
matter.
no, stop. You're talking too much sense. That
I
makes too much
know.
sense, dude. No, come
That's
on. That might
craziness.
blow their minds. So just be careful. Careful with that. But we got Modern Warfare 2 remake coming out here this year, which I'm excited to see. I'm very curious to see if they redo the no Russian level with that one. But besides that, yeah, let's take a break on some Call of Duty stuff there anyway. But don't blame it on the setting.
Right.
Blame it probably on some other development practices. But besides that, what else we got?
343 confirmed season 2 rollout for Halo Infinite multiplayer was pretty rocky. Promises, fixes, and changes. Well, we've kind of been witness to that, haven't we?
Yeah, with the bigger complaints talking about, the one that at least I know I experienced was progression in the current event that focuses on Last Spartan Standing, where if you use up all your lives and die, you're able to exit the game without taking any sort of penalty to XP or completing challenges. But it took me, what was it? I played, I think, 3 or 4 matches in a row of Last Spartan Standing and had a challenge to play just 2, and it only logged 1 of the 4, and so it never completed it
Yeah.
at all. There's that. There's some graphical stuff, but it's not necessarily anything that's like game breaking or game impacting for me at least. But what about you? Have you
I
come
think
across any
some of the
of the stuff?
challenges kind of suck, honestly.
Oh yeah, because Last Spartan Standing is a very interesting balance to it too.
Yeah.
So I also think as well, like one thing that hasn't been confirmed yet is it seems like we knew that the Mangler got a nerf with the 2-shot and melee instead of the 1-shot melee, but we've also seen that feels like the Commando shoots faster, and it also
yeah.
felt like the Bulldog, the shotgun in this game, was more powerful. At least it felt like there was more oomph to it than there was in the last season. And I don't know what necessarily changed, but it definitely felt like it got that without actually being in the patch notes. And then, of course, there's people complaining that there's gun jamming as well. I think was what some of it said too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there were reports, actually multiple reports of that, which seems bizarre. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, that is really weird. It's just something I don't think I can necessarily confirm, but it is an interesting one to hear if there's been enough reports out there. So I don't know.
Yeah, I just hope they fix a lot of the issues before we, hit a mid-season point.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's planning to be as long of a season as the first season was.
Yeah.
So we can actually enjoy getting to level 100 and not having to slog our way through some of the challenges with some of these undesirable game modes, or at least get some fixes for the game that it needs still.
Yeah. Well, I think one other thing too that we can say, or probably on this one, is that um, with the season 2 update, they added 2 new maps in, and I still have not even played the second new map. We've played I know we've played the new big team map.
Hmm.
You have to forgive me, I can't remember its name. It's the ship scrapping facility, and then the other one, I have not had that come across in my playlists at all. So I have no
Yeah,
idea
I
what that level's
haven't
like.
either.
No. So there is some stuff they need to adjust, and part of it though is that 343 did issue an apology on it and gave every person at least as long as you log in up through May 15th, I think. So this next what is it? Next Sunday, um, you will be able to get 5 double XP boosts and 5 challenge swaps. So it's a nice little apology there, especially as you're working through the battle pass and working through the progression to unlock some of the new stuff. So that's pretty
I
neat, at least on its own.
guess.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it depends on who you are. I mean, we'll get it done. We'll get it done, no problem.
Yeah, yeah.
But what's our what else? It looks like we got one last one on here for the quest markers today.
Yeah, and Apex Legends Mobile is dropping this month. Definitely one that I'm gonna be checking out. I don't
Yeah.
know about you, but I kind of like the mobile shooters. Even playing on the touch screen, kind of fun just to pick up. If you're out and about, you have to wait for someone in the store or something, and you're just sitting in the car, or out on a bench, and you're just like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna hop in a match real quick.
Oh yeah, no, I like the idea of that too. It feels more approachable to play it on a mobile device, and I'm speaking from experience with things like PUBG Mobile and Call of Duty Mobile,
Right.
because I I don't believe they support like um, controller connectivity where you can actually hook like PUBG Mobile and Call of Duty Mobile up to say like a Bluetooth controller and play that way. I know that there are controller cases you can get for your phone that
Right.
use like the touch pads to go to the buttons and that, and then you can move things around just as you would on a controller. But it does feel a little bit more approachable compared to some of the chaos we end up running into when playing games like Apex Legends on PC or console, where everybody's just moving so damn fast. It's just sometimes harder to keep
Right.
pace. So you are right. That is actually that's going to be fun to see and fun to play. So I'll download that probably first thing, and we'll just have to probably do a duos match there and just see how well we actually fare in that first go
Well,
around.
and I mean, you started Genshin on your phone before you even started playing on PC, so.
Oh my god, and I don't even know if I have Genshin anymore on my phone. Do I even still have it here? Let me see. Yep, it's right there. I actually uninstalled it from my PC because I haven't played it
Oh,
forever either, but it's just sitting on my phone not doing anything. So we see how that one's gone.
I love the idea of mobile gaming. I think there's it's one of the biggest markets out there, and I think it's a missed
Hmm.
market for more game companies to that they should be getting in on. I know EA has their hands in it a little bit already, but and so does Devolver, and some of the other publishers. But
Right.
I
Yeah.
think there's a lot more market there for big AAA studios to put out some smaller titles on mobile that we could enjoy, even as supplement to some of the big games that they put out.
Or we end up just playing everything via Xbox Cloud streaming. So there's also that.
True.
There's also that. But it looks like that is it on the quest markers as well. Our little end of news roundup. Just kind of throwing out there the little things that only need a little bit of a mention instead of a full section itself. So with that, that is everything then for this weekly news roundup, of course, for May 7th, 2022. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to this week's news live stream. Of course, be sure to catch this and all of our other news live streams as well here on our YouTube channel, where we go live every Saturday night, 8 p.m. Mountain Time. Be sure to subscribe so that way when we do go live, you do get that notification. So you need to hit that notification bell because then you'll really get the notification. But also, of course, follow us on social media, Twitter, Facebook at the NPCs Podcast. And, of course, follow the podcast itself on your favorite podcast platform of choice. Or go to our homepage, anchor.fm/the-NPCs-podcast, and find the podcast platform that we are supported on that you might want to actually go ahead and pick up. Get us in your ear there, of course. New episodes every week as well. With that, everybody, that is it. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. We will catch you all in the next one.
Laters.